Hi folks, it's David here and I just want to talk to you about the latest draw from our friends at Football Prizes. Football Prizes is pretty much what the name suggests. You have the opportunity to win some spectacular Rangers prizes in their raffles and other clubs if you have a fondness for any of them. This week, their prize draw, which takes place this Wednesday, the 20th of January, is for a signed framed Barry Ferguson shirt. It's a very nice piece of kit indeed. It's got LED lights, it's signed, framed, lights up. Tickets, there's only 99 of them and they cost £5.95 each. So if you want to enter, and I'm going to be because I want to win it, then all you need to do is head along to Football Prizes website. You pick your ticket number and you enter. Competition has one entry. Just go to footballprizes.co.uk. That's footballprizes.co.uk and you have a chance to win a spectacular piece of Rangers merchandise. Good luck. Hello everyone and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name's David Edgar. I'm your host as always, and this week I have no guests. Well, apart from this one. All the way from the great land of the USA, I thought we need an expert on watching something set itself on fire, and who could be better than my friend Shane Nicholson. Good afternoon, Shane.
Hello, David. It's a privilege to be here this morning with you. I think this is the first flagship I've done since Graham Murray got sick of kicking Derek McInnes around.
Yeah, so. I think so. There's probably been a political agenda against you rather than any health reason to not have you on here. I mean, we had you on, except when we didn't.
Yes.
We are of course referring to the latest in the tyre fire that is Celtic FC 2020-21. We will come to that and we will have a lot of fun when doing so. But we are of course a Rangers podcast and we're going to talk about the champions elect and our trip to Motherwell. Shane, we are the champions elect. We deserve to be. We've put ourselves into a wonderful position. But if we don't turn up to games until after half time, then that might not continue to be the case.
Yeah, but I don't even know if it was halftime. It was just that 20 minutes out of the gate. And like I said, we had that one passage where everybody, I mean, from the throwing coming in, the goal, obviously, everybody just switched off. I mean, Tab was out of place. Kamara was out of place. Balogun, obviously, I love him, but that's more than once he's been beaten in that exact same type of run this season. So
that's a goal we've conceded a few times. We haven't conceded many.
Well, we've only conceded a few, but yes, we have given up that one.
That one seems to have been in place a wee bit. I just thought we were very flat at the tracks. And look, I understand that footballers they speak about the 12 o'clock fixtures not a particularly. They're not a fan of it, and that's universal across the game. They don't like it. The preparation time, obviously, from getting up and it's breakfast, etc. They don't like it. But still, Motherwell were out on the front foot. You've got to come out, and it's not like it's a recent thing. I mean, last week at Aberdeen was the 3 o'clock kickoff, and Rangers were slow out of the traps in the first 20 minutes there. But as a layman, right, as a total non-professional in football, just a fan, I've always wondered about starts and how quickly you start, and surely there must just be a case of saying, right lads, up and at it straight away. And having had the opportunity to speak to pros and ex-pros and not just Rangers but other, you say to them, look, why are some games you slow at the track? And they'll all look at you and say, we don't know. Clearly, you don't deliberately say, right, lads, let's go out and take it easy for the first.
Play like shit for 45 minutes.
Play for shit for a bit and invite the opposition on. And there's some days you go out and it's just boom, right, and everyone's on it and it's fast passing and everyone. And there are other days you go out and it's just slow and lackluster. And it's a difficult one to try and solve, but it's something Rangers, I think, have to solve, Shane, because it's happened a few times now.
Yeah, I tried to watch back some of the match after you got a hold of me to do this, so I could be a little bit more prepared. Because I don't like noon Sunday kickoffs either, because that's a 6 a.m. kickoff for me, and I'm either very hungover or just really tired. So, the biggest thing I saw, which, and I pointed this out on Twitter at the time, I don't understand why we switch Aribo and Kamara sometimes, because Kamara just works better with Barisic. It's been the case all season, and Aribo and Haji have looked good together on the right. And the midfield, I don't know if it was because they were trying to trend back to where they want to be or whatever, but that first 45 minutes, you couldn't get the midfield out of each other's pockets. And, that really slows down the passing game when you've got three guys all within about 15 yards of each other the whole damn half. I mean, it bogs it down. And I think we've seen that, in times at Patadri, and some of the other matches this year where we've had that kind of lull, not the crisp, sharp, 20 pass movements that have led to goals, but instead these ones where it looks like we can't really just move the ball any more than 8 yards side to side. So
I wonder if it was the goal at Pittodrie last week when Aribo didn't track back to cover for Tav, and I wonder if the manager thought, well, look, of the two fullbacks, it is Tav who tends to be the most furthest forward. He does tend to. Barisic will get up there and deliver his cross and then get back, whereas Tav will go in and try and get on the end of things and try and score goals. So I wonder if the manager thought, I'll put Kamara over there, who's more naturally defensively inclined, and that might have been the thinking. But you're right, it didn't work. We found ourselves a goal down. Pretty flat display in the first half. Expected a reaction in the second half. Got one. Rangers, were dominant. Eventually did get the goal without. I think we've got to be honest, without really putting Liam Kelly in the Motherwell goal. I mean, it wasn't like he was making save after save. We did have some decent chances. Ryan Kent, who just could not do wrong, do right for doing wrong yesterday. He just had one of those days, and you could see it. You could see it, but I must admit I was touch surprised that he stayed on, Aribo stayed on, and Yanis Hadji got hauled off. I thought Hadji, of the three of them, not saying any of them were great, but I thought Hadji looked probably the most dangerous of the three of them. Did that one surprise you?
Yeah, a bit. And I didn't, unlike we saw maybe in the second half of the Aberdeen match and more in the past few weeks, like when Kent's getting the ball only in the last 20 yards of space is when he constantly runs himself out of space. You don't like seeing maybe one of your best creative players dropping back 40 yards to pick up the ball all the time, but he needs to, because his ability to take people off the dribble, or make the quick 1-2 passes to get two or three guys out of position, especially with the way Davis is passing right now, was lacking. I mean, every time he picked up the ball, it was right around their area, and we saw it time and again yesterday where he just runs to the end line and then the ball goes out and they get a goal kick.
3 times.
And yeah. And again, with Aribo, I don't know. I don't want to keep bagging on the guy. Everybody has a bad game. It just, I don't, as you point out, when him not tracking back on up there at Patadri, but still, I don't, Kamara. I think part of Kamara's skill set is, especially with Arfield out, he's the one who makes those late runs usually from the far side of the box, right, when Tav's bringing the ball down. And we just, there was nobody coming out of midfield yesterday coming into the box late to try to create anything, which again, is something that we've desperately missed with Arfield being out injured.
Yeah, we have missed Arfield, and I think you see that. And look, nobody is going to sit down and pretend that Scott Arfield maybe has a technical ability of some of the other players on that side, but what he does do is something that nobody else does, which is, as you say, he's fantastic timing at arriving in the box. He takes players out of position. He creates space for other players as well, and they've got to be aware of him. So all of that.
Well, and he shoots,
and he shoots,
which is
that was frustrating.
It's frustrating with Stephen Davis, right? You don't notice it as much when you have Arfield in the lineup, but without him playing, now we've had a couple weeks like Stephen, just take one shot Because I mean, the reason, yeah, Arfield's not as fast or as technically gifted or anything, as you're saying, but he will just have a fucking crack from 25 yards. And that makes defenders, you have to commit to that because he will put that shot on. Steven Davis, even at the edge of the box with a clear shooting lane, 9 times out of 10 he's going to look for the pass, which just clogs up the area around the goal more. If
they
you
don't need to run
have to
out.
close them down.
Yeah, they don't need to run out to block. So, and
No.
we saw that yesterday, and I thought we reverted to crossing too often. Now I'm going to completely, shoot myself in the foot.
We have 41 crosses, I think.
41 crosses from open play. Now that's a lot, right? That's like first season.
Well, and that plays into them with their baseball bat wielding central defenders.
So. Yeah, I mean they've got big 6-footers in there, Mugabe and Gallagher, who are quite happy to just stand there all day and head the ball away. Now, what it means is that the cross has to be exceptional and the movement has to be exceptional. And luckily for us, Rangers did combine. Well, not luckily, that's why you have skillful players. Borna Barisic delivered a beautiful ball in. Cedric Etienne, again, he's very good at that. Well, particularly against Motherwell.
Beating Motherwell, yeah.
I mean, God, he hates Motherwell, doesn't he? Did his parents get laid off from Ravenscraig or something? But he is just magnificent versus them. But he took, lovely. But he's got that. He's got that kind of that natural striker ability to just say, I don't even know if they know they're doing it, if it's instinct, but just that I shall take a step over here and therefore put myself in it. And it's a real talent. But he got in the end of it, great header. And I did think at that point we would go on and win the game. But disappointed that we didn't. A kind of flat result. Now, a few of us, I think, noticed watching that the pitch was not in good condition. Stephen Gerrard talked about that afterwards, and he said, look, we know the pitch isn't in good condition. Motherwell told us through the week. They actually got in touch with us and said, look, we've got to warn you, the pitch isn't great, and if the weather turns, then there's a fair chance the game might be off. But he was quick to say it wasn't the pitch that was passive in the first. That's a quote. It wasn't the pitch that was passive in the first 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And he pointed out, I think, quite an interesting thing because the pitch at Ibrox isn't looking good. None of the pitches in Scotland are looking good at the moment. But even when I watch EPL games, the pitches there don't look great, and normally they're like pristine. And I do wonder if it's maybe a COVID-related thing. Maybe they don't have as many staff members, or maybe the staff members are having to work in different ways. I don't know. It's just a theory, but it does seem to be something across the UK.
It was something because as we were talking yesterday, I'd switch over to watch Ajax and Feyenoord in a it was a different climate and obviously a indoor facility there. But I watch more Eredivisie than EPL probably, and their pitches all seem to be in at least a decent state. A big part of it is what you just said, that teams can't have as much staff in place right now to do grounds work. I reached out to a couple buddies of mine that work at a couple different clubs down south, and they've said we don't have the people in place between having to furlough staff to save costs and the fact that you just aren't supposed to have that many people around working together. And that it has impacted the quality of their playing service. So I'll just say, obviously we go through this every winter, certainly with the likes of Fir Park and stuff like that. I mean, they just don't have the facilities that we do. Although I did find it funny the picture of Tannadice and Dens Park that came out last week. That's
brilliant.
People are like, oh, it's the shadow. Well, yeah, but they both have undersoil heating. So the shadows really shouldn't matter. The same street.
Dens Park was playable and Tannadice wasn't. The same street. Absolutely fantastic. But that's Scottish football in a nutshell. Yep. And it was a bit of a pain. So it left us just the 21 points clear.
Just the 21, yeah.
Now, there was some initial, and I think it went away and dissipated by today, that's for sure. But I think there was some initial kind of disappointment from certain quarters. Then there were other fans. I spoke about this on our daily update show on Patreon, that social media, I think, Shane, is bad for polarising opinions. I think that you go in sort of in the middle ground and you kind of get shoved to one extreme or the other. So it quickly came down to either you were far too blasé because you were saying, look, it's one draw after 15 wins. It's hardly a disaster. We're still X amount of points in. People say, oh, no, you're not taking this seriously enough. And then otherwise you were saying, this is a disaster. This is terrible. Everything's going to shit. We can't do this. I did see what's like disgrace and ashamed, which I thought were a bit over the top. And people were saying, no, you're being ridiculous. There is a middle ground, which is, look, lads, that wasn't very good for at least a half. You need to step it up. You should be, don't drop your standards. We'll come to maybe the reasons why, the psychological reasons why in a minute. But I think that, in my opinion, 15 wins and a draw is no debacle. 24 games, 21 wins, 3 draws is fantastic. But equally, you're allowed to say that wasn't a very good performance.
Well, I mean, that's part of being a Rangers supporter, right? If we don't win, we've lost. So,
disaster.
I had to look at it because you got to go back to last Sunday, right? They played 2 matches in the spell that we played 1, and they gained 1 point. So there you go. I mean, we were up 22 points at the end of the match last Sunday, right? Now we're up 21, if I'm doing my math right. I mean,
they had 2 away. They had 2 home.
Yeah, they played week. 2 matches this week,
and we had 2 away games, and we finished. We finished the week. They took 2 points, we took 4. So
I was thinking from because they played on Monday last week.
They played Monday, yeah. So they had 2 home matches.
Since we closed
2
out
away. Since look, before kickoff,
it's 21 points. I mean,
Well, the other thing
if they're going to make up a point on us, a half point a match for the next 17 matches that they have, they're not going to catch us. The thing, obviously, we want to do now is just wipe Brenton's invisible season off of the.
Well, this is the thing, right? About and I do understand you want to get it done. Neil McCann, I thought, spoke very, very well about that. Where he said, "Yeah, that's your focus. Just go and get it done." Yep. But it is a different pressure, I think, for the squad to what they've been used to the past couple of seasons, and we know they haven't handled it. I'm not in any way. We know they haven't handled that in a tight race, but it is different to go, oh, my God, they're so far back. Can't see them, and to think to yourself, right, okay, we can maybe take the foot off the accelerator a little bit, but like I've got no objection at all. Once the league is won, to us going full Walter Mine in a row, playing guys that are, just wandering past the stadium, all the players quite clearly hammered 24/7. I've got no objection at all to that. Liverpool did it last year, and I've got no problem with that at all. But, go and get it done. Equally, I look at our results, and they're phenomenally good. I look at a run of games. We've got Ross County, St Johnstone, and Kilmarnock at home coming up in the next 5 matches. The other 2 are Hibs away, always tough. Hamilton away. You'd expect us to pick up the points there. So while I'm not annoyed particularly about yesterday, other than certain things from watching the game, I want us to go into this next run of matches saying, right, this is actually the chance. Because if we do win those matches, then we are pretty much home and hosed.
Well, I think there's something to it too. That Jared seems slightly more comfortable when he has to rotate for Europe. Like Defoe hadn't played for 5 matches, right? Barker hadn't played since the Old Firm, I believe. And these are players in amongst the squad who just hadn't seen playing time, and the matches have been slightly more spaced out. So we played better earlier in the season when you didn't have to think about that as much. You just know that you have to rotate. Now he seems slightly less comfortable in how he's making those selections. So I look, it was a blip, but it was still a draw. We still haven't lost, and we roll on. I mean, it's not like anybody got COVID or anything. So
no, exactly, and it's not like there's an agenda against us by doctors and that to get stuck into us. But yeah, there's going to be games like that, I think, flat games over the rest of the season, because you don't have that scoreboard pressure. You don't have fans in the ground, of course, as we all know. And that means that there's going to be this little bit of self-motivation. I think I also remember, when we drew with Hibs, we then went on this fantastic run. When we lost to St Mirren, we then got back on the horse quite quickly. So I do think they're pretty good at saying, right, okay, come on, refocus, get on with the job a little bit. We do have a run of games coming up with us, Saturday, Wednesdays, which is I think is good because they've had a bit of a rest, with this. Effectively that'll be like the third full week of training they've been able to do. But then I like this team, as you say, when they're just playing. I think they're, they get into a rhythm in a way that means that they're just so focused each game because you don't really have time to focus on anything else. And I think we see that. Now, for those of you who don't like when we discuss our unfortunate opposition across the city, that you can go now. So
come back tomorrow.
Come back. Yeah.
Where we will also be making fun of them. So.
Loads of good stuff ahead of you, because we would have mentioned the fact that Celtic had drew to Livingston, drew with Hibs in the passing.
Seconds.
Yeah, we would have mentioned that as in the context of where we are, and it would have been relevant, of course, because they're the team. Well, they were on paper the team most likely to stop us winning the league. I'm not sure we can still say that now, but yet again, Celtic have managed on a dreary Monday to somehow extraordinarily shoot themselves in the dick, as Shane would put it, with a spectacular press conference by the Celtic manager Neil Lennon. He returned from his COVID isolation post their Dubai trip. Shane, I'm coming around to the opinion that Dubai trip, I don't think they should have gone on it.
It seems like it might have been a poor idea.
I'm
no expert, and I don't want to be accused of dragging them through the mud. Having an agenda here.
You have an agenda.
Yeah. Fuck me.
I've honestly got no idea where to start with this thing.
This is the thing, because they keep trickling out these little. It was still coming out when we started the show. So if there's something funnier that we've missed, I'm very sorry. It's still falling down the pipe for us here.
Somebody said to me, "You need to see this," and I was like, "I don't." I'll read the quotes. I don't really watch.
No.
The press conference videos of them, right? I'm not one of these people who can do it. I don't, people say, listen to Clyde, it's comedy gold. I can't, okay? I can't listen to that level of stupid. It just depresses me because it reminds me that I'm a member of the same species. And then I think, it's fucking 2021. Have we not evolved to better than this yet, The word is specific, for example, right? Just, start mentioning that. Not Pacific.
Not Pacific.
Yeah. Have you got a Pacific example there, Shu? No, give him a fucking Indian. Give him an Indian Ocean one.
Escape. Escape. How is it people escape?
Lackadaisical, right? I can't. I can't. Okay? It's a weakness on my part. I just can't. So I was like, I'm not watching it, and they're like, you need to watch this. So I put it on, and I've been warned that's bad. Right, I've been warned it's bad, so my expectations been calibrated a certain way, and by the end of it, 48 seconds the clip was, I was going, holy fuck, they need to sack him. They cannot allow him to stay in that job, because I've seen probably about 7 or 8 minutes of it now in total. He said that Celtic don't have any positive tests apart from the 2 that they've had, because there was another one. There was another one. They had to announce
this morning.
He said no one has COVID. Checks notes apart from the 2 who do. He then was asked about Celtic, and I'll read it to you. I'll read to you what he said, so that we can't be accused of twisting his words in any way. He said, "I'm not apologising for going out there and training for a week. I'm not apologising for the players having a day off. I apologise because 2 of our staff because 16 of our players and staff had to self-isolate. I don't think it's a public health issue."
That's the one.
I think
that's the knife.
I think it's political. Folks. So COVID has been invented to stop Celtic winning 10 in a row from their manager, incidentally. He then went on to say, we weren't doing a 20-man conga, which was lauded by all and sundry because Scotland qualified for the Euros, and accused the nation, the media, of double standards. Your players were in that fucking conga.
Yeah. Well, and what you said, like you can't long lens people in Dubai without their consent, or so. I don't even know
He
what.
also
I mean,
said
it's just the
it's
most.
illegal to take a
You know,
photo in Dubai of someone
yeah.
without their consent. Yes.
I mean, I think our good friend Chris Graham hit it on the head that somebody should have followed up and asked him his opinions on 5G. Because I mean, he has crawled down the rabbit hole, man. Like
I
this is the kind of shit I expect to see over here, you know.
I'm not saying this in a mocking way, right? Because I'm a recovered alcoholic, and Shane quite often appears on our show, the Crow Pod, will tell you about the end drunk. So, but I am aware of when somebody doesn't sound right, and he didn't sound right. He
No,
didn't sound good, and he is just coming off 10 days self-isolation, which is a tough thing to do for anyone. I understand that, but here's the thing: you're in a position of authority. Okay, you're in a position of responsibility. You cannot go out there and, in the middle of a worldwide, global, unprecedented health crisis, pour cold water on the regulations. You cannot. It's irresponsible. If I did it in a normal workplace, I would, I think, run the very real risk of being gross misconducted for bringing the company into disrepute. I think I would breach terms of my contract there. So you can't do that. But here are the things that he managed to do in this press conference. One, he managed to insult the Scottish government, who have been pressing, by the way, for Celtic to be punished by the SFA for the Dubai trip. He managed to insult the SFA, who incidentally are being pressured by the Scottish government to take action against Celtic because of their Dubai trip. He insulted his boss, the Celtic chief executive, Peter Lowell, by saying that not only should he not have apologised, but if anyone had to apologise, it should have been Lennon because it was his decision. He insulted their fans by saying nobody has COVID, apart from these two. It was absolutely wild. It was completely out of control. It was Keegan-esque meltdown, back in '96. Anything you want to put it at. Even did air quotes at one point. If you're doing air quotes in a press conference, and it was quite funny because he immediately did it, and all I could think is that the riots a few weeks ago when the shark came out, he was going, all I wanted was sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads. Is that too much to ask? And I'm not entirely sure, Shane, that he believes that it's not. But the serious point is, and we'll get back into a minute to laughing at their travails, but there is a public health crisis. People are dying from this. And even if
your hospitals are filling up just as quickly as ours are.
Our hospitals are full. Look, one of our listeners got in touch to say, I work in a hospital, and if he wants to come down and see what's going on at it, then I'm willing to show him, and he'll see that
he might end up there at this rate, regardless.
Well, a different type of hospital, I think. I don't think.
That one too.
Yeah, that one too. But it was a spectacular and flagrant meltdown. But it did, for me, move into offensive.
Yeah. No, I don't. As I was sitting there watching, it harkens back to my time working with politicians and stuff like that, whether in the media or PR. And like, this is the kind of shit you tell like a losing candidate to do in a political campaign, right? Just come out and sit there and say, you're making all this up. This is all your fault. This is absolute bullshit. None of this is because, you're in a position where it doesn't matter. All you got to do is reignite your base, right? Obviously, we've seen it work here to great effect.
It's his oldest time itself. It never does you much harm with your base.
No, and that's I don't.
They're not buying it.
Outside of like
his
Desmond,
base aren't buying it.
No, and that's the only thing I can hope for. Again, it is like keep him away from the goddamn microphones for the rest of the year. But I would love Desmond to come out with his usual bi-weekly statement of, "Nah, I'm keeping him." Just get it up, I don't care. He's staying. But that's solely for entertainment purposes, obviously.
No, it's been remarkable, really, to watch this this explosion. And as I say, the problem that they've had is he's clearly been in his house for 10 days alone, watching the Celtics form continue to get worse.
It's like Trump. It's like taking Twitter off of Trump and then you put him back in front of a camera. I mean,
yeah,
it's that.
Well, Trump when he got put in front of a camera after 12, didn't do this. He at least read what they'd given him to read. I mean, he's gone off on one. He has gone, into business for himself.
I think part of this though too is you're looking at a guy who for the better part of 2 decades has had every excuse made for every one of his horrid fucking actions. Be it as a player, his first stint as a manager, whatever it might be. There's always been somebody there to excuse it, and they've let him do this for his entire time in Scotland. And so, yeah, I mean, of course he feels like he can get up there and say, because again, who's ever held him to account? What has everybody ever told him? Like, Neil, you probably shouldn't say that, or Neil, you probably shouldn't have hit no, it's not happened. It's never happened.
No, and he can't handle it. And I think he's aware that he has lost their base. But this is why, to take it back to Rangers, right?
Yeah.
This is why I'm confident, because we do have a lot of tough fixtures played. Right, we've still got plenty, don't get me wrong, but we have a big lead. But the whole fear of us not winning the league is predicated not just on us collapsing, right? But also on Celtic hitting a run of form that I don't believe their current circumstances would allow, because clearly, things are not right there. We know that. To put it another way, folks, Rangers have dropped 6 points in 24 matches. Celtic have won 6 of their last 20 matches. Okay, so the idea, incidentally, that, they were missing players the last 2 games. Okay, what about the previous 18? And I just don't believe that there's any signs from them. Now, they could sack him, and they could bring someone else in, but that's unlikely to engender an immediate turnaround. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I don't know who you're trying to do it either. So,
if I'm a manager of any standing, and you think that's what they'd want to point, then you say, phone me in summer, lads.
Yeah,
more than happy
I'll talk to you in June.
More than happy to dial in on transfer targets for next season. I am not touching this yet, because if you're a manager of standing, you can do that. Yep. So I just think that the circumstances don't lend themselves to that. If, of course, we get it right on the pitch, and Ross County at home, no disrespect, that's a fixture I expect us to win. That I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be the case. So I was sitting watching it, and as I say, you're absolutely appalled. The other thing, of course, Shane, is that people are worried, understandably. Well, Celtic are trying to get the season called off. And a few things about that is some of the noises about null and void last week. None of them actually, if you read the articles that mention null and void in the headline, none of them say it's possible.
Yeah, that seemed more like Keith creating
it was
out of whole cloth.
Nobody was talking about Dubai, but well done for Neil, by the way, to put all of Peter Lawwell's work last week in getting Dubai put away and changing the focus right back onto the agenda. But the other thing about it is that, the government might shut down football just out of spite. Well, they could, right? Absolutely. But they've already said that they're not going to punish the whole game because of one club. Secondly, it's an election year in Scotland, and shutting down all football because of one club won't play well. And yes, while a lot of Celtic supporters would, I think, sociologically be SNP voters, equally you still need others, and you don't want to take, that's an unnecessary risk. And lastly, and this is the key thing, if Celtic get football shut down, the other clubs who have generally gone along with them over the years for whatever reason, they're not going to be best pleased and just vote through that, we null and void it. So I get it that it's so out of control, Shane, and it's such a disaster and a catastrophe that because we're logical people, we're sitting at it going, they must have a plan. They can't just be fucking it up this badly. And then, I was in that camp as well, but then I take a step back and I think, no, what Occam's razor here, what's more likely? There's no way that this spectacular catastrophe is part of a grand design. It can't be.
Well, no, I mean, this is, when you have a rambling drunk as your manager who's like a pint and a half away from offering a square go to Nicola Sturgeon. Like, I mean,
enough about you. Let's talk about Neil Lennon.
I don't. I mean, I think at this point, the SFA or the government or whoever would have to say, fine, you know what? If we got to just shut them down again, right? And you forfeit your matches. I mean, that's it. I don't see a way, you know, I don't know. You know, I never discount any possibility in Scottish football and their amazing ability to just, you know, fuck up the easiest things in the world. But
that is true, yes.
Yeah, yeah, but no, I gotta go with you there. I don't see an avenue in which we're not lifting a trade, and hopefully we get it done. You know, I keep looking at that round 31 of fixtures, which I believe is the last Old Firm, if I'm doing my math right, in which we could very comfortably have the trophy in hand by that point if we keep this pace up. Which having to have them run a guard of honor for us would just really ice the cake on the last 10 years. So,
well, I highly doubt he'll be there to watch it anyway.
No.
Right, that will do us for this week here on Heart and Hand. Cammy will be here with Heart and Hand Extra this Thursday, previewing the Ross County game. Who knows what will have happened between now and then.
Well, my
Shane,
country will be gone.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about Wednesday. Yes, Civil War 2. This time it's personal. Yeah, well, you know, stay safe. Actually, that doesn't really bother me because we record on a Tuesday. And that's what I was going to say. You know, people who like hearing me and Shane talk, I'll be honest, we don't talk a lot about football on the Crow Pod too. It's available for free with all our social media feeds, but you'll also, if you just go to Art and Hand and Patreon, you don't need to be a subscriber. There it is, and you can download and listen at your pleasure. We basically just talk about, well, any old random crap that comes into our head.
Yeah, and we bring a Canadian along with us to do it. So
yeah, exactly. And so if nothing else, he'll apologise to you.
Yeah. He makes jokes allegedly, so you know.
He's a genuine, real life, honest to God comedian.
I still think Todd's good. I still
like David said, I still think I'm the funniest.
No, every single Tuesday there, and then we do the odd show every once in a while, like with the impeachment last week, and then of course, hopefully we got some more stuff coming. As David said, it's all going to stay free. So if you like listening to me bullshit, you got plenty of opportunities to do it coming up.
We'll talk about the whole staying free thing, Shane. You know, some of us have got expensive taste. Right, if you want to hear more from Shane, follow him on Twitter. He's at Offvoid. That's OFVOID on Twitter. He'll be there, and I think this week's a good week to follow Shane, as he says. There's some big events going down in Washington this week that might, a running commentary from an angry American might be quite interesting for you folks. I will be back here next week. Until then, please stay safe. Take care, and we'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.